Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our reactions to the Mexican Grand Prix qualifying. Before we get into any of it, remember to like and subscribe, and a huge shout out to our members, Dakota, The Joyous James, Robin Myers, and Cinnamon Strudel. Now this was a very fun qualifying. There were 4 cars at the end going for P1. Of course, we'll get onto that in a little bit. Let's start with Q1. And it seems that we have this thing again. We've had it a few times this year where certain drivers decide, hey, I know, I'll start Q1 on a set of medium tyres. And for the first time, it looked like it might actually work. Both Ferraris did this, as did both McLarens and both Mercedes. I think towards the end, they all swapped over to the softs. We don't know because the F1 graphics kind of just had a breakdown by the fact that not everyone was on the softs. Completely lost track of it, then thought, right, let's just not show anything. So I think in the end all of them went back to the softs, but the likes of the Ferraris were looking at they had some pace at this point, as was Lando Norris. But Max took P1 on the softs, so it was a really interesting one where at the very, very start of the session, the mediums were the faster tyre. But the track evolution was huge in Q1, and as the session went on, it went more towards the way of the softer tyres. But as we get towards the end of this session, it's not looking good for Sergio Perez and Oscar Piastri. Now, with about 3 minutes to go, Piastri and Perez were 19th and 20th. Now, Piastri did escape the drop zone, but his lap time got deleted due to track limits, so he had to go again. And as Q1 finishes, Zhou Guanyu, once again, it was in last place in 20th. In 19th place was Esteban Ocon. 18th place was Sergio Perez. His home race, and you can tell how much he is adored in Mexico. Very disappointed for him. You could tell he was absolutely devastated. Now, Sergio, it's not a shock when he goes out in Q1 anymore because, it has happened a few times over the last few years. But this one, I feel even the most dedicated Sergio Perez hater would even, stop giggling a little bit here, just feeling for the guy. Because he's putting in a lot of effort and it's just not coming to him. And this is really, really tough. The more shocking, though, was 17th place, Oscar Piastri. He set a faster time, but it wasn't good enough. It seemed like he said on his first lap, he had the pace. Then when he went on the track limits, he got caught up on the curb, and that lost him about a second worth of time. Then he had to go again. There was not enough time to come in, refuel the car, all that kind of stuff. So he had to go again on those used tyres, then had no pace from there. So 17th place for Oscar Piastri, not a good qualifying for him at all. I think he did get knocked out in Q1 last week as well. I think it was for the sprint rather than the main qualifying, I think. But yeah, this is 2 weeks in a row now where Oscar Piastri has not been great in qualifying, even though that was a sprint qualifying last time out. And then it was Colapinto in 16th place. Not a great qualifying for him either, really. Has done a lot better recently, but not too shocking considering he is in a Williams. We'll let him off just this once. Going into Q3, and Charles Leclerc is the man who falls victim of track limits this time. His first lap time was deleted, meaning that he kind of just went for a one-lap hope shot towards the end. About 3 minutes to go, and he didn't actually have a lap time on the board. But he does get one on, and it is good enough to go into Q3. With about 15 seconds to go in the session, both Haas drivers get a lap in, which is good enough to put them into the top 10. And they're very lucky that they did it as they did, because just as Nico Hülkenberg crossed the line to get into the top 10, a red flag comes out because Yuki Tsunoda is in the wall. This leaves 10 seconds left in the session, so the session will not be restarted. But very lucky from the Haas lads to get that in, because if it had been a couple seconds later, both of them would have been out. But as it stands, the ones out in Q2 are in 15th place, Valtteri Bottas. And you know what? I think this needs to be celebrated because that Sauber is god-awful. The fact that Valtteri Bottas got that to 15th place, I think is a bigger achievement than anyone getting pole this year. Because that was fantastic from him. Needs to be celebrated from there. Lance Stroll was 14th. Fernando Alonso 13th, his 400th race will start from 13th place. Liam Lawson in 12th, Yuki Tsunoda in 11th. So the Racing Bulls neck and neck. Yuki Tsunoda has shown some good pace this weekend in the practice sessions. Unfortunate that it had to end in a wall here. Would have been nice to see what he could have done with another lap there. But this track has always been pretty good for Yuki. Kinda. I remember last year he was running quite well, then had a clash with Oscar Piastri, which saw him kind of fall back. I think the year before he was running quite well, then had a clash with Daniel Ricciardo, which saw him fall quite back. So this year we may see him running quite well until he has a clash with someone. So that's one to keep an eye out for. Who will Yuki Tsunoda have a clash with this year? He will start from 11th place tomorrow. So, despite not getting that fast lap in at the end, not too much of a heartbreaking position for Yuki Tsunoda. Definitely points on the table for him if he can carry that free practice pace into the race. Then we go into Q3 and another victim of track limits. This time Max Verstappen, who puts in a very good lap time to see him go second place, but he has cut the corner on turn 2 and turn 3. So that sees his lap time deleted. After the first lap time, this is how our top 10 looks. It was Max Verstappen in 10th with no lap time, and then Magnussen 9th, Hülkenberg 8th, Albon in 7th, Gasly 6th, Norris in 5th, Hamilton 4th, Russell 3rd, Leclerc 2nd, Carlos Sainz in 1st place. Then, as everyone gets a new lap time in as the session is ending, this is our top 10 for tomorrow, and it's a very, very intriguing one. So, Nico Hülkenberg is 10th. Alexander Albon, a very impressive 9th place. Pierre Gasly, an even more impressive 8th place. When you put in consideration, his teammate starts this race on the final row of the grid in 19th place. Kevin Magnussen, a very good 7th place. This is only his second Q3 appearance of the year. He was in Q3 for Austin. He's made it back-to-back Q3 appearances for Kevin Magnussen. Lewis Hamilton in 6th. George Russell in 5th. Charles Leclerc, very disappointed in himself, in 4th. On the radio after this, very, very annoyed. Seemed to be a bit twitchy in the midsection of the lap, then really lost the rear end in the final corner. Had a lot more pace than what is shown here in 4th place. We'll be hoping to rectify that tomorrow. Lando Norris is in 3rd. Max Verstappen, an incredible 2nd place. Now, I know that he is very good at this track, but this weekend so far for him has not gone his way. Engine issues in FP1, engine issues in FP2. Got some okay running in before, but hasn't really shown any pace at all. To pull out a P2 here, I thought was very good, but not as good as Carlos Sainz, who was just in a class of his own in this session today. Far and away, easily the best. He just made it look really easy. Found time everywhere. Really incredible stuff from Carlos Sainz. And I think Martin Brundle said something really interesting when Sainz set this lap time. He pointed out throughout Sainz's career, Red Bull were very happy to see him leave. They didn't fight for him to stay. Ferrari have cast him out for Lewis Hamilton. Next year he'll be in a Williams. He's an incredible, incredible talent who has shown over and over and over again, when he's on form, he can battle anyone on the grid. Yeah, he's not the most consistent guy in the world, but when he is on top form, he is up there with your likes of your Verstappens, your Hamiltons, Leclerc, whoever it might be. He can go toe-to-toe with any of them. But he always finds himself in these positions where it's just like, okay, who wants him? And the fact that he's in a Williams next year, with the talent that he has, I mean, he's so much better than that. And I think, in a way, he's kind of underrated. Everyone knows that he's good, but no one puts him up there with those guys. I think that is due to that consistency, like I said. He doesn't do it week in, week out. But when he's on it, he is on it. And he was on it in this session. A fantastic lap time from him. A well-deserved pole position for tomorrow's race, which should be very, very interesting. Of course, Mexico has the longest start-finish straight on the calendar. Huge slipstream down into turn 1. We've seen Max Verstappen before jump from third to first within that first corner. So anything can happen here. You know, it's always quite an interesting one in Mexico. So you're going to have Carlos Sainz on pole position, Max Verstappen alongside him, Lando Norris in P3, Charles Leclerc on P4, the two Mercedes then behind all them, just sitting back with the popcorn, hoping something happens so they can sweep on through. I think this sets up quite an exciting race for tomorrow. Personally, I believe that the Ferraris are the class of the field here. Throughout the practice sessions, I think they consistently showed that they had the most pace. So Sainz and Leclerc are the ones to watch for me for tomorrow. I think it'll be interesting to see if we get towards the end of the race and Sainz is leading with Leclerc not too far behind. Would Ferrari kind of enact those team orders, considering that, you know, despite them, I think they're both still in the championship battle for the Drivers' Championship. Leclerc is currently P3, and he's staying with them next year. Would they ask Carlos Sainz to make that swap? That could be an interesting prospect for tomorrow, or maybe something not to consider at all. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, I'll be here to talk about all of it tomorrow. As soon as the race is done, there'll be a video up here discussing all of it. I look forward to seeing you there. Until next time, have a good one. I'll see you later. Goodbye.